There's been countless videos on the worst Batman takes.
Is it too much to ask for one quiet weekend? Apparently.
But what are some of the worst Batfamily takes? What are some takes that make me think, oh, let me revoke your freedom of speech? Well, I took a look for myself and oh my god, you're in for a little ride. But just before we get into it, hi, I'm Nausea. I use psychology and humor to discuss fiction. And if you like this video or my channel, please engage with it at some point in some way. I don't know, anything you want to do really. Just let me know that you're enjoying so that the YouTube algorithm doesn't toss me aside like a used tampon. Thank you. Now, the first bad Batfamily take I wanted to discuss is something everybody has heard before. Something everybody, especially, you know, people who really like the whole group dynamic, has heard and been like, ugh. Ugh, that's the natural reaction you have when you usually hear this. But I'm just gonna let you know. So trigger warning. We're gonna start with this one. This one that everybody is like against. So this take is simply the Batfamily is too big. And whenever I hear this, I'm just like, okay, what do you mean by this? You know, I guess they could mean that there are too many people inside of the Bat family, there's too many characters inside of the Bat family, that there are too many characters who are related to the Bat family, too many characters that are Bat family adjacent. And the idea of them being too big is that the cast, when it is so big, how can you therefore manage expectations and manage character development and manage being consistent with everyone's relationships and everyone's personalities and tell compelling stories, because too many people getting the spotlight can really dull down the importance of plot. And I understand that in principle, because a lot of the time actually I'm not a huge fan of excessively large casts. I don't mind it. I think that depends on the line that you draw, or how many people, or the situation. You know, if there's like 8 people that are always on screen at the same time, surely it's annoying. But that's the thing. What I don't think these people understand is that every cast of every show of any story ever usually is around 8 to 10 people. The difference is that they're not always on screen. But with the Bat family, they're not always on screen either. So what are you talking about? The Bat family is too big. Like, think about, I was gonna mention One Piece, but I'm trying to think of something more generic so people know. I don't know, Star Wars, you know? If you know Star Wars, most people have definitely heard of Star Wars. There are, depending on which, the original trilogy, the prequels, the sequels, whichever one you're talking about, there is an abundance of characters. You know, you get the main Jedis, you get the main Siths, you get the main middle ground Han Solos type-esque of characters. There are loads of important side characters, but are they always on screen at the same time? No, which is why you don't notice that the cast is actually as big as it is, which is why you don't care, which is why you don't even think about it. And so your argument makes no sense, because if the Bat family was full on and every 12-15 members that it has a good over a dozen, I feel like, members that you could confidently say is in the Bat family. I know it's a big number, I appreciate that. However, they're not always there. So there is no issue. As long as they're not always there, they can just coexist in the background. You can ignore them. You do understand that you have the right. These people, they have the right to ignore these characters, or to not care about these characters, not read the characters' runs. No one is holding a gun to your head to read Batgirl 25, Huntress 56. No one's holding a gun to your head. No one is. You can simply ignore them and only read Batman runs, or only read Batman and Robin runs, if that's what you really want. And even when they are in, or they like coexist in each other's run, you can even scan the chapters. I mean, you don't have to read about them. You literally can scan. Another thing, it's inevitable because of time. If we're thinking about it, DC recently passed its 80th anniversary a couple years back. How are you gonna say that they were gonna keep the cast the same size from the jump? You know, Robin came in, was it like 1 or 2 years after Batman's introduction as Batman? Robin appeared. That's how early the Bat family existed. Alfred as well. Alfred was there too. Already, from the beginning of DC, there was 3 members of the Bat family. Did you honestly think in 80 years! In 80 years! You're not gonna get another edition. Baby girl, what are you talking about? Obviously, they were gonna be adding new characters. Please, use your brain, I'm begging you. And last but not least, Elseworlds exist. There are Elseworlds where different characters are featured. If you're really so annoyed, don't read the Elseworlds, because I know there's a lot of different ones, or different reboots. You know, different reboots will highlight different characters. Don't read the reboot you don't like. No one expects you to read all the comics. It's not like a normal franchise where you just can easily read the whole thing or easily watch the whole thing. You can't. Nobody expects it. You don't have to. Nobody cares if you've read. In fact, at this point, if you have read it, it's like, what is wrong with you? Like, it's that bad. Don't watch when they exist. Like, somebody complaining, oh, Jared the Star? Why is Jared the Star? Don't read about him then, bro. If you don't seek out Jared the Robin, yeah, I don't even know why they made this guy, but if you don't seek him out, you're never gonna see him. You're never gonna see him. So don't, why are you complaining? It's like you order some pizza and you're like, why is there cheese on here? You ordered pizza. Like, please. It's not the fault of the family or the writers. It's your fault. You know what you're coming in here for. You know what they could do with it. Stop complaining. It's mildly irritating, please. And so that's the first take. I just don't get and I don't appreciate. Next is not much better. I can't lie to you, this is just gonna get worse and worse. So this take is something that not as many people are, I assume, are so against, which makes me even angrier. So it is actually just a take that Batman should remain a mentor or an uncle to his kids. I know most people don't agree, but some people do, and I guess their point with this is saying that Bruce's skill set and his time suits better when he's teaching somebody or he's an uncle. Let me just fix my hair so I can say this and seem very professional and serious. And so this means that his ideal role in his children's lives would to be teaching or being like an uncle, because then he doesn't have the expectation to give them all the attention or the affection that he doesn't have the capacity to give. This would be an equal middle ground so that he can take care of them, have responsibility over them, but he doesn't hurt them the same way. And see, this is why I wanted to explain every single one of these so passionately and normally, so you understand. I understand what you're saying. I get it. I understand what you're thinking. I simply completely disagree. First and foremost, the point of him having children was to have Robins. That was a money thing. That was a marketing thing. It was gonna happen whether the character was in agreement or not. Batman could have been a guy, actually he kind of is, but he could have been a character who said, I hate children, I don't want to be with children, I think children should stay inside and be safe and play around and never get involved on the action scene, yada yada. He could have said all of that. They would have still given him a kid. You don't understand. It was gonna happen. He was gonna get a child and he was gonna get a Robin, okay? It was inevitable. The way they chose to do it was a bit of a savior complex thing, but at the same time it makes sense and it's actually pretty sweet in my opinion, that they didn't have anyone else. A lot of these children didn't have anyone that they could rely on, and so him being the final option meant that if he became a mentor and uncle, he would be in a sense abandoning them. So he had to try and play as much as big of a role in their lives as he could, and it ended out that it was quite a mixture in the beginning of most of his relationships with all of them. I feel like it was more of a mentorship, guardian kind of thing, and then later on, especially with Dick, you see the huge transition as Dick gets older. It becomes a more parental thing that they've literally explicitly said in canon thousands of times, that they see each other as father and son later on. I cannot stress enough that means that without him, they would have been vulnerable in this world. The way the writers have written it, they would have been vulnerable. They might have had a worse outcome. It's very likely. I mean, most the writers do try to say that, in Elseworld scenarios, or if in discussions that, you know, Dick would have been in juvie for the rest of his teenagehood or whatever, and Jason would have been homeless and maybe joined a gang because he had no choice or something like that, and Tim would have been abandoned and his parents died anyways. So you know, it depends on the iteration whether Tim's parents were absent, but I personally like the idea that they were absent, so I'm gonna go with the fact that they're absent to mean that he would have needed support and he wouldn't have had that. Then we have obviously Damien, whose mum literally dropped onto his doorstep. What was he gonna do? Turn him away? There was nowhere for him to go. His mum was already halfway across the world after that. Then we have Cass, who again, she has two parents, but the dad who at least was in her life made a horrible impact on it and taught her only to kill. And so evidently, if she didn't get away from him, and she find herself with somebody who was able to channel that fighting into something good, she would have evidently just been an empty shell. Then Duke, he needed to be fostered because his parents were jokerized, and Stephanie had a mum who's working a lot. I don't know if she's sick or something. I don't think she's sick, but yeah, a mum who's very busy while her dad is out doing that ish. So she needed some guidance as well because there was no one else to help her. And yeah, those are his kids, and evidently without him being a parental figure, they were kind of cooked, is what's implied and kind of shown in the story. Even if they weren't necessarily going to turn to a life of crime, they would have struggled much more and would have had less opportunities to do the things that they wanted to do. He understands them and can protect them the most, right? That's what I've kind of said. And so I think all of these things, really, as well as his own characteristics, his love for family, his dedication to things, his resilience, he has a great potential to be a great father and a great father figure for certain people who are a bit less his children, so like Barbara or maybe Stephanie or whatever. But the writers tend to not really let him express that to the fullest. They tend to, I don't know, I think when the Bat family is written together, sometimes they write him as antagonistic, like not a villain but a negative presence a lot of the time. And it's very frustrating because of all the potential he has to be a good parent, not even parental figure. So I think that the idea of him being best as a mentor or a uncle figure caps him as well. So it doesn't only cap them and what they can have and experience, it also caps him and his character development and his potential as a father. It just diminishes everything that could be. I mean, who wants Uncle Batman for his kids? Like, we want a contrast with the uncle, you know? That's pretty fun. With Superman, for instance, being their uncle figure, or with Batman being an uncle figure to Superman's kids. That kind of thing is more fun, you know? A different guy as their uncle, not just the same guy. Anyways, moving on to the third take. This one is a newish one. I mean, however new Damien is, spoilers about Damien, however new he is to the family, it's that new. It's one where it's like I'm experiencing a new type of prejudice. Like, I'm seeing a new type of prejudice for the first time. And I'm like, people are like this? People are actually like this at this time? What on earth is wrong with these people? Because these people believe that Damien is Bruce's only son / heir. So this one is just saying he's the blood son. It kind of doesn't understand Damien's character development and takes what he says at face value and says that's it. Maybe because, you know, wait, give me a second. Maybe because there's been a lot of back and forth, like, oh, his kids on his kids, and people are just sick of it, and they're like, you know what, fuck all of these children, they can be whatever they want, mentees, kids, nephews, nieces, whatever they are. But Damien, at the very least, we know that Damien is his son, literally biological son, no questioning, and his heir, evidently. And so they like that security. They also listen when Damien speaks in the early days. I learned to tune it out. They also believe in blood over chosen family. Yeah, it's a take. It's so stupid though. It's also just, like I said, prejudice in a way I didn't even think about, because, spoiler, I'm not adopted. I've never noticeably thought about if I had a foster brother or a foster sister or whatever, that there would be a mental difference. It's just, to me, it's like, what? Like, evidently, if anyone was the heir, first and foremost, it's Dick Grayson, even though he doesn't want it. I mean, he was the first one. What are you talking about? By age, by loyalty, by characteristics, by time together, by reader familiarity? I don't understand what I it just wholeheartedly invalidates non-blood related families. And I'm not talking about chosen friend families. I'm talking about like people who view themselves as family, because that's like a different thing. That means, you know, step parents, for instance, step brothers, foster parents, foster children. It also invalidates people who don't have a choice. So they are born into a certain family, but then maybe they meet someone who is really feels like really their family, and they can't change the law, you know. It ignores history, it ignores compatibility, it ignores the law, because like I said, those people can't change the law, but these characters can and have, because at the very least Dick has been adopted, I believe Jason has, and Tim has, and so it's like you don't have anything to stand on with this. Like, he doesn't even know Damien, and to reduce the idea of someone being someone's child and someone being someone's heir simply to blood after all this time of Batman comics is just insane to me. For me, it feels like somebody just started watching the Son of Batman movie and then watched Damien only content and then made this and had this opinion. I don't really understand how you could read anything else in a Batman universe and not dispute this opinion and have this opinion in the first place. So this take is, I'm struggling to even understand it, and with the other ones I could understand from the jump, but for this one I'm just like, Jesus. I don't even know what the point is of this. It's just it's so nonsensical, and it's just prejudice for no reason. The penultimate one is related to Dammy, and it's related to Dick, like the last one, but a very different thing. It's on a very different topic. This one is another one where I'm struggling to understand it as well. So I can try to explain it. I will, but don't get too excited, because my explanation, so the take is, the best Batman and Robin was Dammy and Dick. So if I could try to even attempt to explain this argument, I suppose the idea, I'm running a blank. This is like debating club. Okay, it's a different dynamic. I can say that. It is a different dynamic. I guess the idea that Batman is more cheerful and Robin is more dark. Maybe they like the idea of Robin being something or a character that needed to be brought to humanity from Batman, who knows humanity well enough to be positive, because ultimately Bruce is an optimist, and so Batman is also an optimist, because Batman doesn't kill, he believes in people. And so Batman being an optimist and Robin being more of a pessimist, especially since it originated from Dick being angry, could work better and more realistically to the characters and the representations of themselves, which is Batman and Robin. So originally Robin actually has always been, you could argue, someone who needed to be taught to love people. And then Batman has always been somebody who always loved people. And so Dick really represents somebody who already knows that message without any stress and any question. And Dammy is somebody who definitely needs to be taught it, and it's very difficult. And so only Dick can really teach Dammy that with a bit more positive attitude, which is what Dammy needs more than Bruce's indifference. Actually, you know what? I think I did a good explanation. I think that was a decent explanation for why someone might believe that Batman and Robin, the best duo, is Damien and Dick. But the thing is, no. No. They had no choice, okay? That is a nice idea, you know, to say that maybe they represented Batman and Robin better than anyone could. I argue that's dog water, because Dick is only Batman because he was loyal to Bruce and his family. Dick couldn't have stayed as Batman, because what motivates Dick at this time in his character was to be a bright light. Batman, even if inside is an optimist, even if inside he's loyal to Gotham and he's driven by grief. Batman is an icon of fear. And that cannot be taken away just because the person inside is slightly different, even though they have similar ideals in that sense. And Dick never wanted to be a person to spread fear. And Batman cannot change at that point. He was a long-term ethos at that point. And so to say that they're the best Batman and Robin, first and foremost, Dick couldn't be and embody Batman to the fullest. He was robbed essentially of his identity because of loyalty, because he decided, I am going to keep Batman alive for Bruce, who at the time had disappeared into the time stream. And so there was a cap on how good he could be. We all know that Dick Grayson also performs better and fights better with no cape, so and no cowl. And then there's Damian. Damian's ascent to Robin was desperate. Again, there are parallels. I actually didn't believe I would find any parallels, but Damian's rise was not something of, I need to do this to avenge my parents in a similar way that Dick's was. It was more about, this is my duty. I have to do this. I don't necessarily care too much about this. Even though I want to save people, it's more about, it's a stepping stone for me to be a Batman later on, which was never a part of Robin's ethos. Robin's ethos was to be hope and for as long as possible. And Damian doesn't care too much about that, especially in the beginning and when Dick and Damian were that. And it's just, again, the ethos of Robin and the ethos of Batman are so strong, what they represent. The person inside has to match it, otherwise they will reach a cap. And with Damian as well, I believe he reaches a cap because he is not somebody who embodies hope. He just isn't. That's not the character he is. The synergy is different, the dynamics also different. I mean, I like the idea of Damian being Robin, but he's definitely, for me, dead last in terms of Robins. Not as a character, but as a Robin. And Batman being Dick is another one where you could see it was killing him so much faster than Nightwing, especially at the time when he was grieving. So it's not sustainable. They reach a cap and they don't match the ethos of the persona that they're wearing. Neither of them do. So I just don't agree. And also, it's just wrong. Like, the dynamic duo has always been Dick and Bruce. I don't even understand where this is coming from. It's, again, giving me, like, you just started reading comics when Damian and Dick were there. Like, it's giving me, you never even liked Batman in the first place. You came in from that angle. And those people, I don't get you. Like, I don't know how you even came across Batman if you went through that route. Maybe you're a comic reader. You got recommended. I don't even know how that's possible. How is Bruce not your intro to Batman? And how is he not your one of your favorite characters, at least? So why would you then want him to be replaced by his grieving son and his grieving other son? I don't get it. The last bad batfamily take is something that disturbs me fundamentally and bothers me fundamentally, and is actually related to things like the Absolute series. Maybe I'm going to be criticized for this one. It's one that I think I don't like, but at this point, I think a lot of people actually like more than I thought. I say this to say that this take really highlights a significant change in the story and the plot and kind of fundamentals of the story. The idea here is that the Waynes and Alfred, or Bruce himself and the family, should be different. They should be unique, especially talking about the Waynes fundamentally. So the idea is that they could have been corrupt, or they could have been big victims, or they could have been more relatable. It's to give the story flavor. It's to give the family flavor. You know, there's a lot of old stereotypes and old characterizations and features that everybody's seen 100 times. You know, the black hair, the blue eyes, the pale skin. Everybody's like, ay, can we get some mixture around here? Maybe make someone Jewish, maybe make someone schizophrenic, like adding some stuff. Maybe make it so that the Waynes are actually slave owners, or that the Waynes were victims of the Court of Owls. They want to add things to the story and add things to make things more interesting to the main canon. And no, A lot of people have different flavors. Not everybody thinks that they should be all of these things at once. They want it, one thing, they want another thing. Not everyone's on the same page. But personally, for me, I don't like any of it. I don't want them poor. I don't want them victims. I don't want them to be have a different ethnicity or have a different blood. They've got mixture in Europe somewhere. I don't want them to be victims. I don't want them to deal with the mafia. I don't want them to be connected with the police. I don't want nothing from them. I want them to be basic rich people who had a good heart but were fundamentally rich with money from business like they had, and being a surgeon, and from old families, and they just got shot in the alley and died with a guy that had a gun. I am sick and tired of hearing about these different ideas making it to canon. Like, I don't mind if it's an Elseworld. Oh my god, do whatever you want. Okay, that's why, listen, the Absolute Batman, I'm probably not gonna read it, but if you want to do it, go for it. That's one thing. But for it to be in canon is like, please, you're missing the point to me. Because the point is, especially what that means to Bruce. If the Waynes were all of this stuff, what does that mean to Bruce? It makes him special. He's already special, but I want him to be somebody who has to go out of his way to learn about the world and to learn different things and different languages and different techniques, and to not seem anything special. That's why his persona works, because it's a reflection of real life. Rich people suck, and so obviously people are going to just assume that he sucks as well, and it works perfectly because he, by all counts, he is supposed to suck. He's supposed to be basic, frivolous, personable, and chatty. You expect him to be a bit racist, you expect him to be a bit sexist, you expect him to be just ass, but he's not. And I think that, strangely enough for me, I'm playing into the stereotypes that bled into from the wherever into now. I just think that in this day and age, we need to know that there are always outliers in groups. Bruce is an orphan, yeah, and that's his main disadvantage. He doesn't need anything else. And I know the orphan thing is pretty common at this point, but he doesn't need any other disadvantages to be a good person. You shouldn't need any disadvantages to be a good person. You should be able to understand that, and the reader should be able to understand that even if there's a bazillion awful rich people, there are gonna be one good one. And the same with any demographic ever. Please. I know there's someone, I remember reading that someone really wanted to change his fundamental character. So if you don't believe it, that's great, but I know somebody doesn't, so I just gotta talk to that person. I just gotta say to you right now, no, let him be basic and good. That's all I want from him, okay? I want him to be messed up, basic, and good. I like how Bruce is just like Lex Luthor, but 0% ego, 100% goodwill. Not because of anything else, but because that's just him. And those were the worst Batfamily takes I could find for now. If you want to do one thing, then subscribe. Otherwise, let me know down below which take you agree or disagree with and how you would rank them, maybe. And let me know if I missed any ones that you really, really hate, Batfamily takes you really hate. Maybe I'll make a second video about this. Last time I made a video like this, I didn't show my face, but I like to show my face now. It's easier to edit. I did not say that. And then I say quick goodbye. Johnny home, Johnny oh.